Alrighty, so let's keep going here. Don't need to do any preamble. Let's get the little detail at the top here integrated, because that's a very, very easy one for us to bring in. So I've just got custom transforms from the previous tutorial. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab, actually, before I do this inset, we'll just make this a little bit easier on ourselves. We're just going to rip this bottom edge, and we're going to do that so that we can do an inset to the bounds. I'm just going to go Shift H as well, just to make it easier to see. And I don't actually think I need this outer face. I think I can just do these ones. So do an inset, press B, bring it in. So I think that's lining up on the right hand side here. I think that works well. The top edge isn't, so I'm just going to double tap G, do an edge slide, bring that down. And I don't exactly know what is going on in this design here, but to me, it kind of looks like if I drew this out on the side, it kind of looks like it's sort of protruding out like this a bit. I don't know if that's accurate, but once again, I'm just going with my interpretation of this. You're more than welcome to do your own, but that's just the way I'm going to do this. And so I think the easiest way for me to do that is I'll just subdivide these edges, grab this, I'm just going to pull this out a bit. I just realised, hang on, I sort of want the rest of the model here for just context of what's going on. Because I don't want to move the bottom vert, so I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to rip these edges as well, and then I want to select the top row of edges like that, cool. I actually want to rip, I'm just going to hide that vert, rip that vert away, then select this, then I can pull it out, cool. And so it doesn't need to be too extreme, so I might just go, I don't know what angle that is, but only a very fairly shallow angle. Doesn't need to be anything too intense. And then I'm going to grab this bottom row of edges. Just going to double tap G, I'm just going to drag these down a bit. Just there, and I might actually even bring that down a bit as well. And then I think these sort of connect together. I don't really know if this shape makes any sense, but you know. We'll dissolve by distance because I know there's some overlap going on there. Now, this is a little bit interesting because we've got some verts here, whoops, that I don't really want. So I'm going to delete this vertex for a second. So you can see that we can probably very easily resolve this whole area like this. It's like, cool, done, sorted. I'm not a big fan of that just because, well, as you probably come to expect, we have a pole on the edge. So what I'm going to do instead is see if we can do a reasonable solution to this, because we've also got this pole here, but just because we're not creasing it, I wonder if it's still going to make a drastic effect. Hard to say. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead, let's crease up these edges. See some of the detail pour through. Yeah, so as I said, I don't know if that's correct, but that's just what the reference image looks like to me. But I think I might get rid of that, and then I think we might need 2 loops going through here. Which is a little bit interesting because that means they're going to flow down here, flow all the way down here. Okay. Alright, let's just see. I'm just going to hide this face because I know this is like pretty flat along here. So I wonder if we can get away with just hiding some n-gons here. Or a smarter idea, sorry, that might not be the way to do it. Smarter idea might be to bring in the topology from these corners, because we know we can place poles on these corners because it won't distort the overall shape, the overall shading of the corners, because they're meant to be poles in the first place. Let's do that, just see how this is looking. It's going to be a bit messy, no doubt. And then we might, but if I cut, because if I subdivide these, and then cut these in, we get triangles, which I don't love, and we also get n-gons. It's not really turning out to be the masterful solution I was hoping it would be. Yeah, no, that's not looking pretty at all. Alright, let's go back to what we were going to do initially with the n-gons on the flat faces. So we'll just cut those back in. We can dissolve these because those were newly added. We'll Control-R, add these in. And we'll cut these in. Let's just see how this looks. I know that's a fairly stretched face there, but it doesn't look too bad. I'm not too phased by this. I think it looks pretty alright. And then let's just see how this n-gon is holding up over here. Let's use a harsher matte cap to see if it's actually causing any issues. It's flat enough. The only issue I can see is we do get some inconsistent shading along this edge here. See how it's like nice and straight here and then it sort of lumps out a bit? I figured that might happen. So we might just have to bite the bullet and add in the 2 loops going through, or because this edge up here is an creased edge, we might be able to get away with just doing the 1. So to do that, so that edge isn't completely consistent, but I think it's, you know, less visible. And then that just sends 1 extra loop flowing through here. And so then the only thing I'd want to do is just in this area. Actually, sorry, let's do this with the quicker method of selecting everything. And then I'll deselect from like there. And I don't want to do any of the selections through this bit of detail here, because otherwise we'll destroy the shape. So let's space that, see what happens. I think I might also want to select through here as well. Space those out. Actually, I don't think I want to space up here because it seems to actually distribute fairly well as it is. Let's do, oops, I lost these selections here. Space those. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. And just while I'm looking at it, I'm just going to straighten that up. Cool, I think that works well. Hopefully that hasn't reintroduced any pinching here, because I know that area is a little bit denser now. Yeah, the corner's definitely been flattened out a bit, but I'm not too worried about it. So cool, I think that works well. You know, not the nicest topology, but it does enable us to put in our detail. Cool. So I'm just thinking we're almost there. We need to do the bottom, we need the screws, and we need this top part. So let's do this top part first, because I think that's a little bit more entertaining. The screws are a little bit more mundane and monotonous to do. So I'm just going to, well, I'll go front view. I'm just going to click somewhere in the middle of our mesh. So there, which is weird because that's the middle of our mesh. Is it? Yep, that's roughly the middle of our mesh, and that looks horrifically offset. Is that? I think this is different distances from the, that's not in the middle, because if that peak is the middle of the reference image, that's not, wow, okay. That's interesting. Righto, just more fun to add to the dilemmas of this modeling series. Cool, anyway, let's go ahead and add in a plane. I'm going to add a loop down the middle, select this edge on the left, delete the verts. And then I might actually just go ahead and... Actually, that was really unnecessary, because if I add in a mirror modifier, enable clipping, delete the verts... Actually, no, I won't delete the verts, because I don't want to use the... I don't want to use the control and click method of getting verts in, just in case it causes problems for people, so I'll just delete everything but these last 2 verts, merge at center. And that should be a more reliable way of ensuring that this works for everybody. And we can start building this out. And so I'm just going to focus on what's going on the right-hand side and ignore the left, because as we've just established, this is not are correctly positioned on the actual game mesh, which is interesting, or maybe it's the reference image I've chosen to use. And so this will be nice and simple compared to the rest of the modelling we've just been doing, because we're essentially just making a more detailed cube. It's a terrible way to describe the shape, isn't it? And I've just hid the main helmet for a second here, just so I can more easily see the object we're trying to focus on. So let's go with something like that, and then I'll just join that edge together there. Cool, let's extrude this in along the x-axis, Alt-N and flip the normals, because those are completely wrong. And we're just going to add a loop at the bottom here so we can start to fill in these faces. So we can fill in a face there. We'll actually need to subdivide that. Fill that in, and that actually works quite nicely on this side as well. And then at the bottom here, so it's sort of got like a plate. I suppose this is supposed to be like a module for helmet attachments or something of the sort. I mean, it's never actually used in the games, but I think that's what it's supposed to be. And then I'm just noticing, like, this is a bit skewed here. It's not exactly flat with itself. So what I'm going to do to just try to fix that is I'm just going to select this edge, go normal. And that's not really giving me what I want. So what if I select the face? Yep, so that's giving me a nice normal axis. So I'm just going to add a custom transform, select this edge, and then I'm just going to go S, X, and 0. And so now that's flattened that out. And to just adjust these bits on the side here, I'm just going to go to vertex, and I don't want to align target to rotation. G, hold down X, snap that up so that's more consistent. And do the same here, G, X, snap that back down so we've got nice clean edges there. And this will just enable me to make that platform in the middle, so I can just delete that face. And don't worry, I do know that this is an n-gon, so we can just cut that edge in and remove vertices by distance to fix that up. Let's go ahead, we'll make another cut through the middle here, and we can fill those faces in. Cool, so now we've got that platform. Pretty sure that's all working fine. Nice. And so there's also this little trapeze shape on the side. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I kind of like the idea of it extruding out a little bit, just giving a little bit more depth to this shape as well, I think would be nice. But the way I'm going to do this, kind of similar to the way we did the trapeze here, is I'm not going to try to cut it in or do it manually. I'll actually model it as its own separate object. So I'm just going to select this middle edge here, Shift S, cursor to selected, bring in a plane. Just going to get rid of that custom transform, RY 90 degrees, scale this in. And then we'll make the trapeze in the same way, so we'll just subdivide this. We'll delete this top roll vert, and then we'll just add in 2 extra loops here. We'll go merge at last, and then we can just delete these edges, fill in a face, Alt-N, flip, and now we've got a trapeze shape, and then we can just adjust it to fit the way we need. So I might just rotate this. I can do the rotations by eye, but at least we know all the verts are correctly positioned. And so I'm just going to adjust this. I'm actually just going to hide this mesh because the wireframe's kind of throwing me off a bit. Just going to drag this up, just rotate it just a little bit more. And oops, we've actually still got the remnants of those verts. So I'm just going to push this edge up a little bit on the normal x-axis, sorry. And then to adjust these, I'm just going to create another custom normal profile with this edge here. Just drag this down on the Y and drag this one up on the Y. So it's not exact, but it's pretty close. Alt-H to unhide everything. And similar to what we've done previously, I'm just going to extrude this out, pull it out on the normal Z. And I'm just going to Shift H to isolate both of these. I'm just going to push this down, see if it's roughly parallel. Yeah, so it's a little bit off, but I don't think that's too problematic in the grand scheme of things. So that's cool. And then let's just go ahead and we'll set this to be a bounding box. Oops, bounds. And then we'll get a boolean for this. You probably don't need to do a duplicate for this because, I mean, it's not going to be a very difficult boolean operation. And there's not, like, this isn't a very precious mesh, so to speak, and I just need to push this back so it's actually pushing into the design. So now it's actually doing the boolean operation properly, because if you remember when we brought in the plane, it was directly on that face. So that's looking good. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply this. So Control A to apply that boolean. And I'm just going to delete those internal verts because I don't need them, because I want to do this as like an extruded bit of detail. I think is going to look nicer. Okay, so the thing I've noticed, it's not really parallel to the helmet, which is of more importance to line this up to, because if it's not parallel with the helmet, it's not really going to look nice. So I'm just going to select all these verts, and I'm just going to rotate this a bit. I think that's a bit better. And for the sake of what we're doing, I might actually extend this down. So I'm just going to use the knife tool. I'm just going to cut this down. So see how I've got those two red squares? That means I'm cutting perfectly in the same angle as the edge that already exists. So I'll do that once there, and I'll do it again over here. We got that. I'm just going to delete these faces at the bottom. And I think, yeah, we've still got an edge running through there. We don't actually need this bottom set of faces at all, because that's just never going to be seen, because it's clipping into the mesh. Cool, and then I don't need those verts, those are just left over. And I'm just going to extrude and pull this out. I don't want to do it along custom normals, I want to do it on the actual normal, but that's not going to look nice, so I'm just going to undo that. I'm just going to fill in a face, and then I'll extrude, and that will retain the normal a little bit better. And so I'm just going to pull that out a little bit. And I can see that the bottom here isn't actually conforming to the shape of the helmet that well, but an easy workaround for this. So let's just go ahead, we'll delete that face because it's not needed. Alt select the bottom. Cool. We'll go ahead and we'll add a vertex group to this, and we'll assign it to that bottom selection there. And then in our modifiers, we'll get a shrink wrap modifier, and we'll just use our group. And that will just help us, if I turn the cage on, that will just help us actually conform all of those verts to actually hit the shape of our mesh. Obviously it's not working in that little gap there, but we can adjust that manually. And I'm actually, because I can just see that that's sort of distorting the shape, so I'm just going to go ahead and dissolve that edge for the time being, and I'm just going to do the same here, just so we keep those faces straight on the trapeze. Control A, I'm just going to apply that shrink wrap. Cool, so that's working well. It has distorted the shape of our trapeze a bit, so I'm just going to double tap G, do an edge slide, bring it forward, just so that it's like intersecting with the edge at the back there, at least from this side view. So double tap G, bring it back, C to bring it forward. So I think that's good. Now they're like perfectly in line with each other, which we can adjust in a bit. And so then we've got like two little bits of detail cut out here. So what I'm going to do to help figure these out, I'm just going to space this. So now I'd assume that this edge is in the middle of our design here. So then if I were to cut, oops, sorry, Control R, add an invert, and I might just actually do this with J because I think it might be a bit easier. So I'd assume that this edge here is in the middle of the trapeze. Or trapezium, sorry, I keep on calling it trapeze. And then what I'm going to do is I might just actually isolate this from the rest of the mesh for a second. Oops, there. P, separate by selection. And I'm just going to alt select this middle edge here. I'm going to go Control and B. And it's not going to line up perfectly, but I'm just going to go somewhere around there because I can see that that edge on the right hand side is lining up with one of those little rectangular cutouts. So I'm just going to say cool to that. And then I'm going to select these. And we're going to go Control B again to do a bevel. So that gives me the width. And then the last thing I want to do, because these cuts don't run all the way to the top and bottom of the design, so I might just go ahead. I'm just going to add in 4 loop cuts, dissolve the middle 2, and then I think that gives me roughly the shapes that I want here, so I can do an inset like so, and then I think I'm just going to extrude these back in on themselves. Well, actually, should I extrude them or push them in? I might just push them in. I think it might give it a little bit more readable depth to everything. So we can join that back in with the rest. And so obviously we've changed the topology of this quite significantly from where it started. So we're just going to need to reintegrate that. So when I did the remove by overlapping verts there, or by doubles, I always forget what it's called these days. It's joined it back in, but now we've just got a bunch of n-gons, so we just need to resolve all of this topology. So I'm actually going to go ahead, just use J to connect these up to the corners, because I think that should work quite well. I think we can probably cut that through the middle there. Control R. Just going to merge that at last. J to join, whoops, J to join that one. Okay, so this face isn't properly connected for some reason, so I'll just delete it. We can just press F to fill in those faces. And then we just need 2 more loops running through the middle here. So I'm just going to add in the first one, just roughly align it with this vertex down here. So I'll just go merge at last. Control R, cut another one in, and then I'll just merge this one at last. And then we'll do the same, we'll just align that vertex with that back one. Go merge at last. Control R, cut another one in, and we can just go merge at last. Cool, so we're not going to win an award for topology on this design, but it works, it serves its purpose, and that's all that matters. And I might just do a bevel on this, just to make it look a little bit nicer. Give it a little bit more detail. And I might do bevels on these outer edges as well, because I don't like them being so perfectly sharp in their current state. I think they just look a little bit weird. I just wonder how this bevel's going to resolve though. That's right, I can easily fix that. We'll just bevel that edge as well. So yeah, we'll just do something like that. I think it just makes it look a little bit more organic. Well, not organic, makes it look more like it's been actually manufactured. It doesn't look like a 3D model, if that makes any sense. I don't really like how it's pushing all of this out, but I think we might be able to... I'm going to select these with normal, Shift Z 0. I think that resolves it fairly well. Cool. And then the last main part of this, we're going to need to add in a bunch of support loops, but we've got that little circular detail in the middle. And actually one thing I have missed, I kind of feel like there's like a rail going down the middle here as well. So let's go Control R. It's going to go Shift S X 0. Bring that into just around the middle of what I think this to be a rail. I'm going to bevel that to match the same size. That's looking cool. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these and I'm just going to push that down a bit just to make that rail sort of shape. So like assume something might be able to slip in through the front there. And then that's getting a little bit narrow, a little bit close to the helmet there. So I'm just going to select this bottom roll vert, Control I to invert the selection. And then I might just use active element, go select one of these edges in the center, and I'm just going to pull this up a little bit just to add a little bit more distance there. And don't worry, I've noted the fact that we've sort of distorted the flat surface along the front here. We can address that pretty easily. But we might do it at the end because it might be easier to do it with the mirror modifier actually applied, and we're getting the same sort of result at the back here. So don't worry, I have noticed that. And then for this circle, I think we should place it here. I mean, we could place it in the center, which would be this vert. But let's place it here. Let's do some things that are a bit more faithful to the design. So I'm just going to go cursor to selected, and we'll bring in a circle. And this is a pretty prevalent bit of detail. So I don't think a circle of 20 verts is really going to cut it. Let's go 24. Might be too many, but we'll wait and see. So I'm just going to scale this in. And I'm just looking on the right-hand side of it here. So I can see that our wireframe is roughly matching up with the right-hand side of the circle there. So I'd say I'm happy with that. And then I'm just going to go bounding box and change face and align rotation to target. G, hold down control, and then shift S and cursor to selected. And I might just scale that down just a little bit more. Cool. So let's go ahead, let's just delete that vertice, because that's where the circle's now going to be placed. And actually, before we join these meshes together, let's just go ahead and delete half of it. Then we can go ahead, Control J to join the mesh in. And I'm just going to push this back out because we're going to need a bit of a support loop around the circle as always. Push this back out a bit as well. So I can see we can connect that face there. Well, sorry, those edges there, my bad, they're not faces. And for the time being, I'm just going to fill in some big n-gons around the sides here. And I can just do the same in the center, so I can just fill that in. Going to go I, and we'll create that support loop straight away, just to make things easy for us. And actually, speaking of making things easy for us, let's go ahead, let's go Control R. We'll go Control R at the bottom here as well. I'm just going to double tap G, I'm going to slide both of these along. Cut this up. So now we've made a support loop for this edge here, and the reason I want to do that, I'm actually just going to double tap G, I'm just going to bring the circle support loop in a little bit more. The reason I want to do that is it's going to help us sort of push some poles and things around the mesh, and it won't then distort our shading. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to do that. I know that's a triangle, but keep in mind this is a completely flat surface, so it's not going to matter. I might actually be able to do that one as well. So push that into there, cool. And then for the top here, I'm just going to select the circle, Shift and 7. K, I'm going to use C and Z to cut through the mesh. C and Z cut through the mesh, cool. And we do have n-gons here, which I think we probably should resolve, but I might resolve those into triangles at the bottom there. I know that looks like an absolute mess, but I believe it will work. Let me put my money where my mouth is quickly, and let's subdivide this. And let's go ahead and actually add some creasing in. Actually, can I just go Shift G and select similar by face angles? That gets a handful, but not all of them. Ooh. I might have messed something up at the back here. I don't know exactly what's going on with that edge, but we can fix that up. That's all good. I'll crease it up all the same, and then we can come back to it. Similar things sort of happened over here. I wonder why that's happened. Strange. Crease these up, crease that one up. Definitely don't need to be creasing those. Yeah, we can crease those edges up, and let's do these ones here as well. Just can't really see what I'm selecting there, so I want to do the outer edge. We're definitely going to need support loops around these, because I just don't think it's going to look nice. Could be wrong. Need that edge. Definitely don't need those. Right, Shift D 0.55. And the idea was to prove the fact that the horrible topology in there actually does work, which it does, so that's cool. Missed a crease there. I don't actually think selecting by similar face angles did me much good somehow. I think it's kind of made things just a wee bit harder. But that's alright, that works. We'll probably need to do some adjustment here, because I don't really like how that's sitting with the rest of the bevel. But let's address this, because I've got no idea what's happened. I don't know how I managed to accomplish this, but I'm just going to select that edge, G-stretch. And I'm going to do the same on these edges as well. G-stretch those. So now if I look from the side, it's mostly okay. I just kind of, oh wow. So we didn't actually properly connect all this topology. That's alright, just merge that at last. Now that's looking okay, and that's probably what happened on the side here as well. Okay, so I must have just missed something as we were working before, but it's alright, it's an easy fix, G-stretch. Fix those up, and what's the shading looking like around these? Not great. Especially on this one, since we've actually missed a crease. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to select these middle faces, Control plus 2 times, and then using the normals, I'm just going to push these down. I'm just going to put these more in the center of the shape. And actually, I might do it by moving this edge as well, and I might actually then just use the active element, push all that down a bit. And we do need some additional topology in here. I don't really want to start throwing loops all over the place, so let's do this. And then, sorry, we will wrap this tutorial up. I realized it's been going for a little while. So let's just add some loops on the outside here. And I'm just going to start to redirect some stuff. This might actually allow us to clean up a bit of our topology on the circle as well if we start introducing new topology. So do that. And sorry, I'm making these boundary edges just so that we've got some better support to push through to these square details here so that they're not getting such strange shading. Bring that down. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to actually stuff some n-gons into here. So I'm just going to hide these faces. Control R, GGE, push that up to crease those edges, and then do another one here, GGE and F, push those down, Alt H, and then if I look at this, yep, so now those edges are much more nicely creased up, it's not looking as weird. But speaking of things looking weird, I'm not loving the... Oops, that definitely doesn't need to be creased. I'm not loving the shading on the outside of the trapezium here. So I might just cut in a support loop, GG, E, and F, just to conform it to the actual trapezium. Let's go something like that. And let's just do some adjustment on these verts, just so that these faces aren't stretching so much. So I'm just going to pull this up and out a bit. Push it across a bit more, then bring it back. Go something like that. And I might just do the same over here. Oops. Push this across, bring this up. And then just adjust this one a little bit as well. And then just to sort of fix up the wonkiness of that, just double tap G, E, F. Drag that in. And I think that just looks a little bit nicer now. I might just run a space operation through the middle. Might even do a G-stretch just to clean up the look of it, not the shading. G-stretch. And G-stretch there as well. And so that should look much nicer, sort of makes that a lot more crisp. I'm not loving the bevel there. I'm just thinking we might have done bevels without applying the scale of this thing. No, scale's at 1, okay. Yeah, so I'm not loving where this is positioned, so I might just double tap G, just drag this down a bit. I think that just looks a little bit nicer. I don't know if I accidentally distorted that by doing something. Shift 8.55. Cool, okay, and now let's address... Actually, no, sorry, I haven't even finished doing the circle. I need to stop getting distracted. So let's build this out. I don't exactly know what this shape is, in all honesty, but I'm going to apply the mirror modifier because it's generally easier to work. Generally easier to work on these things when we've got no mirrors. Jeez, I'm losing my train of thought here. And also, sorry, I just realised, sorry, let's go back. Because we did add in this new topology here, right? So we can actually clean up the topology that we've put down here, or just a little bit at least. So I'm just going to dissolve that, push that into there, and we'll still keep that triangle there, but at least we can just have one more quad in there. So I'll apply the mirror. Just going to dissolve that middle edge, and then for this, I'm just going to insert this once. Pull this out a little bit, and I'm kind of going to make like a bit of a dome shape. I no idea what this is actually supposed to be. I don't understand the practicality of this, but let's just go with it. I'm going to go Control and B, bevel this out. I'll add in some segments, and I'm just going to press C so that we enable clipping. And then I'm just going to go ahead and merge by distance. And then on this middlemost face, I'm just going to do an inset just to reduce the size of the n-gon. And it's not completely flat, which is strange. Scale Z 0. Let's have a look at this. That's resolved pretty nicely in all honesty. And then I might just go ahead and Shift E 0.33 to add in a crease on that. Cool, so I think this is almost done. I think we just need to scale out the fronts here because these aren't looking nice, and I also don't need those creases there, so I'm just going to Shift E -1. Sorry, this did take me a while longer than I was actually anticipating. Scale Z 0. Cool, I don't think that affects our bevels too much, which is nice. But I might actually crease this edge up here. And in doing so, I might just go double tap G. I might slide it back up on the bevel, then bring it down a bit, just level this out. That's kind of obstructed the shaping a little bit. So instead, I might just, for the time being, I might just go ahead and dissolve this edge, which will then more accurately let me adjust this. I don't know why this has gone so askew. Double tap G, I'm just going to drag this down. Just level that out a bit more. And then I'm pretty sure we need to do the same at the back here. Oops. So select this face, Shift and 7, just to go into a view that matches the face normals. Double tap G, slide this down. Straighten that up. I think that looks pretty good. And I think we also need to scale out these back faces, so SZ0. And then we can go ahead and just add this loop back in. Cut that together. And cut that one back together there as well. Cool, so this is looking alright. I feel like there's just a bit of an issue because I didn't pick up on that scaling being incorrect. Like it was not completely flat. So I might just do a quick relax on all of these, and I think that'll just help fix it up. That looks alright. Cool, and then I think the last thing, oh god, I just realised adjusting those on one side didn't apply to the other, so sorry. Just going to do one more thing here. Delete these faces, I'm just going to reapply that mirror, just so it actually does all the changes we made to one side, so I can apply that now. Actually, I don't need to apply it, we've done the circle now, it's in there, so that's fine. The only other thing we needed to do is because at the moment it is floating on the mesh, right? Because it's not respecting the little bit of detail that we have on our actual helmet. So I'm just going to go Control R. I'm just going to cut in. Oh, actually, I might not have to add in extra topology because that just seems like a bit of a waste at this point in time. Let's just double tap G. I'm just going to slide this back. And then you would think that the normal would sort of let me pull that down. I'm just going to do an edge slide. Press C to extend it. Just push that down into the mesh. Like that, and then I might just do an edge slide just so that the edge, sorry, is sort of actually lining up. in a place that seems reasonable. Like that. Cool, and it's not properly hitting the mesh as I'd like it to. But instead of doing another shrink wrap, what I might do is just double tap G, so I'll just do an edge slide, and then, actually I don't want to do it for that edge there, that vert, sorry. Double tap G, do an edge slide, press C, bring it all back down. Just push it back into the mesh, and now it's all clipping, which I'm fine with it clipping. Oh, okay, wow, that was, I did not think that would be quite that difficult or long to do. Mind you, I did not do a practice run of that. I just looked at it, I'm like, yep, it's all blocky, that'll be easy. Whew, okay, but all the model detail is done. We literally just need to do the base of the helmet and the screws. Sorry, I keep on saying last one, done, finished. Oh, the next one will definitely be the last one, 100%. I cannot see that taking a ridiculous amount of time. And we also need the tube in here. We need that as well. All right, almost there. Oh, I'm so sorry that I keep on saying that. But I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're still getting some sort of value and education out of this. We're almost there, guys. Almost there.